Artificial intelligence is making waves. Perceptions of artificial intelligence vary from being a panacea for all human ills to being an existential challenge to the human race. In this presentation, we try to compare artificial intelligence with human intelligence. Intelligence can be defined as the ability to receive, to process, and to respond to information. Who has intelligence? All living creatures have intelligence. Unicellular organisms move towards food and move away from toxins. Plants project their roots to where they can find water and their leaves to sunlight so that photosynthesis can occur. When we consider human cognition, there are three aspects. There are information inflows, then there is a cognitive processing of the information which has come in, and then a decision is taken and tasks are executed. It's the same with AI. You have an information input, you have decision making, and you have a response. Let us consider information inflow in humans. We have multi-sensory, multi-modality inputs, vision, hearing, touch, smell. Humans are visual dominant. The visual pathway starts with the eyes. Our eyes are cameras. The retinas are taking about 5 frames a second whenever the eyes are open. Impulses pass along the optic nerves, decussate at the chiasm, and then pass on through the optic tract to the thalamus. The lateral geniculate nucleus of the thalamus deals with vision. Conventional scientific knowledge says that the thalamus does not perceive vision, but actually movements can be perceived at a thalamic level, and this allows the initiation of what can be called thalamic reflexes. A stone hurtling towards our head will cause us to duck and try to protect our heads even before cognitive processing has occurred. From the thalamus, optic radiations take a sinuous course through the parietal lobe and the temporal lobe to the occipital cortex. This course through the parietal and the temporal lobes actually provide a filter for images which are rapidly coming in through the eyes. A certain priority is accorded so that we see only what is relevant and important to us. At the occipital cortex, image outlines can be seen. Once image outlines are defined, then these images are sent to the association cortices, the visual association cortex. Here we have image identification. Images are identified. What is the image and where is the image? These identified images, selected identified images, are now sent to the hippocampus. The hippocampus provides multi-modality integration. All aspects of an image, of an object, the visual, auditory, if any, tactile, all aspects are merged to form an information sachet, which stays on the hippocampal desktop till an opportune moment when it can be sent to the neocortex for archival. This transfer of information from the hippocampus to the neocortex occurs during SRS sleep, that is non-REM sleep. Where does the information go? A gist or an abstract of the information is stored in the frontal lobe in language form. This ability to store gist information in language form is key to human cognitive superiority. Information, which is raw, complete, and multimodality, is meanwhile also sent to the association cortices. Information inflow into the human brain can be broadly classified into two groups. One is what we train our children to do: selective, sequential education. Start off with alphabets, words, reading, learning, and ultimately leading on to specializations. The other group is of general information inflow, the world around us, awareness of the world around us. Information is constantly recorded of the world around us, not from textbooks, but from what we experience. Let's see computers and artificial intelligence. Massive advances have occurred in generational AI. Here, information inflow is in language form, what is fed in. Then you have verbal intelligence. This verbal intelligence is made possible by transformer architecture and diffusion techniques. Large language models like ChatGPT can today answer any questions or give you suggestions when you prompt it. So what AI does today is that it assimilates language-based information. Language-based information is important, but that is only a part of the information that should flow into an intelligence paradigm. The second, which is also being explored in AI, is of general or spatial intelligence. Computer vision is being evolved. This includes even the lidars on self-driving cars. Let's see object recognition and facial recognition. Images have been converted from 3D to 2D form for identification by AI. Identification is possible because of three advancements in technology. We have graphics processing units. We have processing power by a technique of convolutional neural networks. And then we have big data, that is, images gleaned from the internet. What AI lacks today in object and visual identification is firstly context assessment. Context assessment. Bird sitting on a tree, the time of the day, why, whether pollution has driven it from its habitat. The context which comes from general information. The second is value estimation. When we see an object and identify it, we register in our memories based on the value we ascribe to it. And the third is the emotional quotient. You see something, it gives you joy. You see something, it makes you reel back in horror. This is also important in memory so that we ascribe an emotional value to what we see. Where do we store information in the human brain? Three locations stand out. The hippocampus, that is our desktop. All information which becomes a memory passes through the hippocampus. That is where memory sachets are formed. From the hippocampus, information passes on to the prefrontal cortex and to the association cortices. The prefrontal cortex does not store raw information, it just stores an abstract in language form. This kind of abstract information storage allows us to manipulate information to take decisions fast. And it is supposed to be the key to human cognitive superiority. The association cortices are storing raw multimodality information. Here, the information is more resiliently stored inside neurons in peptide sequences. And while information passes from hippocampus to the frontal and association cortices in non-REM sleep, during REM sleep, information is passing intraneuronally. And that is the reason why dreams occur. There is a churn as the synaptic maze transforms information into chemical bonds inside the neuron. Computers also have three zones of information storage. You have the desktop, always available to you. You have C drives, and you have the cloud, which can be considered the equivalent of the association cortices because a large amount of information can be stored there. Human decision making is multidimensional. The first dimension, we have information inflows, which are processed firstly at the frontal repository, where this information that we have helps in making a snap decision. This is corroborated by our knowledge accumulated in the association cortices, the raw information. And the connection between the two is through the caudate nucleus. In the second dimension, we have volition, motivation, drive, and desire, modulated through the lateral frontal executive cortex and emanating from the limbic cortex, again modulated by the glial syncytia. We have restraint, mediated through the basifrontal cortex, emanating from the limbic cortex, modulated by glial syncytium. We have character, personality, and values which influence decision making. These depend on your genetic code, which is species specific, varies from race to race, changes from family to family, and also shows individual variations. Computer decisions are flat, one-dimensional, based on information alone. Values, restraint, and character can be coded as information. Once a decision is taken by the cognitive cortex, then we decide to act. And then a plan is formulated as to how the action could take place. And then you have finally the action, the execution. The execution is basically through the motor cortex. The motor cortex deals with also language. It also leads with mathematical functions, also deals with music. All this is broadly under the motor cortex. Language-based action can be in the form of speech or writing. Music or notes might be produced. Mathematical calculations may be undertaken. More easy to understand is motor movement. How does movement occur? You have a primary motor cortex where neurons are controlling individual muscles. But it will not be possible to do any functional movement by unsynchronized single muscle contractions. So you need to have a movement sequence. So these sequences are learned and stored in the accessory motor cortices. Some of these sequences are actually predetermined and pre-recorded. Like we are born with templates which allow us to walk in a particular way, to speak in a particular way. The second aspect is that you train it and slowly you learn to walk, learn to run, you learn to play games. So species specific templates facilitate further motor learning. So you have the primary motor cortex dealing with single muscle contractions, accessory cortices which are storing movement sequences. You have basal ganglia which decide the range and velocity of contractions. You have a cerebellum which provides reciprocal contractions and balance. And then you have feedback from the spinal cord, from the visual apparatus to judge the consequences of our actions and our position in space. How is task execution achieved in AI? You have computers, again, language based. A particular question is asked, depots of information are searched, and an answer is forthcoming. Robotics involves movement. Early robots performed pre-programmed tasks. Assembly line robots are a classical example. A car, a particular rivet is fixed by a particular robot. Later, to make these movements more sophisticated, we introduced sensory feedback because with sensory feedback, you could train a robot to handle delicate tasks. Feedback is again crucial, obviously, for self-driving cars. You have a lidar which identifies obstacles and tells the car engine what to do. Surgical robots are not really robots. They are actually tools. So you are operating these tools from a console. In war, air defense systems, artificial intelligence is playing and will play more and more major roles in the future. An adversary is detected and identified on a radar, and correct and action is taken. You can launch an anti-missile missile to counter that missile before it reaches a target. This kind of air defense systems have been very well demonstrated in the Ukraine war. Continuing with the military applications of artificial intelligence and robotics, air defense systems with AI have advantages of speed. They don't fatigue. They don't lose concentration. They are less vulnerable than human operatives to any kind of attack. Drones are being used more and more in warfare, and they have been a game changer. They can be used for observing and transmitting information, which can help guide other weaponry. You can have drones which are designed for attack to a particular target. You can have a suicide drone which carries a missile or a bomb charge, and can be delivered against a target. Pilot planes have got tremendous potential advantages of maneuverability. The computer does not require oxygen. More common is wingmen, a piloted plane which has got a swarm of wingmen which are actually unpiloted, and all of which are capable of firing missiles. Autonomous gunboats and submarines are being used Bomb disposal robots have obvious advantages, and fighting vehicles are being developed by all developed countries for actually going and fighting a war without immediate human control. AI and robotics have also great roles in space and underwater exploration. And if a nuclear accident occurs somewhere, robots can go in and close valves or salvage situations. AlphaGo Zero was a computer which was designed to teach itself how to play rather than being taught multiple games like the older versions. And this AlphaGo Zero could beat AlphaGo. Robotics is not so advanced in sports because again the complexity of the movements. Aquatics, athletics and games, they are yet to make a splash. Artificial intelligence excels in strict one task, in a single task. Facial recognition, yes. Language translations, data analysis. But even today, artificial intelligence systems are one trick horses. The path to general multifaceted intelligence is still actually unfathomable. So, to summarize, intelligence involves information input, storage, processing, and response. All aspects which humans do effortlessly and which computers and robots are learning to do. Human information input is selective. We decide what we want to see. It is sequential. We learn alphabets, then read. It is multimodal. We see, we hear. Artificial intelligence is stream specific and unimodal, even today. Human memory storage is again selective. We choose what we want to remember. At the thalamus, emergent action is taken care of. A stone coming towards your head will cause you to duck even before you perceive it cognitively. The association cortices serve as filters so that the optic radiations transmit impulses with a tag of priority on it. What gets a priority is what we will see. The hippocampus is a desktop which is stored the information and which sends it to the archives. In frontal lobe, we have gist archives, that is, abstracts of all that we learn. And in the association cortices, we have detailed information. Human information transfer and temporary storage are fragile and synapse based. Synapses are three-dimensional constructs. And unlike the binary system of computers, where there's a 0 and 1, you have fractions so that you can have a sort of fuzzy logic in the sense that maybe. AI is two-dimensional, 0, 1, but storage is resilient. Abstract values like emotion, motivation, religion, etc. are unique to humans. The current status of artificial intelligence is that of a tool. It helps us to retrieve data. It helps us to analyze data. And it helps us to logically surmise what data is already available. We remain the masters.